Oh my god, this format is going to be so silly. Okay, so, here comes the thought dump, the much belated friggin' thought dump. I mean, you'd think that they'd give us at least some amount of time before the ban list is announced. This announcement comes technically 6 days before the list goes into effect. You'd think we'd have at least a week to prepare for this thing, but apparently not. It's just kind of dickish like that. So the first thing we'll actually notice here is, for the second list in a row, there's nothing new that's been added to the ban list. Well, at least the banned section, at least. So, I mean, some people were calling for Soul Charge to get hit. I think that's the only one that people were wanting to get banned, aside Vanity's Emptiness as well. But, minor spoilers, Vanities did not get hit. And that's probably the one thing that I'm salty the absolute most about. I mean, aside from the fact that Stratos still remains banned, because he doesn't deserve it. But anyways, with that out of the way, we'll just move straight on to the limited cards. Glow Up Bulb has made a return. I don't know why it's at 1 though. I mean, you can have it at 3 if you want to. It doesn't really matter that much. Infinity Archfiend is at 1. So too is Raigeki. I'll let that sink in for a minute. Raigeki. Soul Charge. Super Poly. And that is the limited list. 4 cards new to the semi-limited, in the form of Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind. Gauze, the Emissary of Darkness. Ceasefire. Yuck. And the Transmigration Prophecy. And then right down here, the 4 cards to be completely unlimited are Coach Soldier Wolfbark, Magician of Faith, Formula Synchron, and Reinforcement of the Army. Okay, so time now for the in-depth thought process, and what I'm actually kind of wondering yeah. Okay, so Glow Up Bulb. I was fuming as sin when this card initially got banned, because it was, if you've seen some of my earlier Sign Dragon deck lists, you'll know I'd love to use Glow Up Bulb and make quick Quasar, not even Quasar, Shooting Star Dragon and Red Nova Dragon. That was pretty much the point. Get the Sign of Dragons, get the evolved forms if possible, blah 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 blah. And it seemed to work pretty fine, and then both this and Spore both got banned, which was kind of moronic. And now people were like, this thing's never ever going to come back because Dragon Rulers can abuse it. Well, we're going into this format where it appears to me that they're just going to promote the shit out of Synchros. I get the point, because Legendary Collection 5Ds is the center point of all Synchros, and you're just going to get so many different reprints and shit like that. So I'd say to an extent this thing is justified, and there was a shitload of hype. Like, it's been a few hours now since the list has been announced, but I have seen one guy trying to get $70 for an ulti one of these first ed. So either somebody's going to be insane enough to do that, or the seller is higher than Mount Everest at the minute. So obviously, with Light Sworns being as busted as they are, that's probably the first deck that can abuse the crap out of it. It makes very quick level 8 synchros with the Dragon Rulers, and the Dragon Rulers themselves now can probably utilize a very deadly plant engine with the use of this and Spore, and it's pretty much just you pretty much have Tengu Plant, except for the fact that Tengu's at 2. If Tengu ever came back to 3, that would actually be kind of funny, because yeah, I actually wanted to give Tengu Plant a crack before the whole deck got ripped to shreds, which is a bit of a shame, but whatever. So it's a surprise, but it's a rather pleasant surprise for me personally. Infinity Archfiend, well, it's kind of tradition that you hit the deck that won Worlds, so I don't really see any real reason to be surprised at the loss of Infinity Archfiend. There'll be some salty as fuck players, but Infinities were kind of a bogey deck for me for the longest time, but I managed to get the wood on them recently. At least knowing that I don't have to worry about them, or if I ever go up against them, I know they're not going to be that incredibly broken as sin. That helps quite a fair bit as well, because yeah, this thing was a bit too silly as far as I'm concerned. Some people thought Launcher should have been banned. I can't really disagree on that, but at the same time, you're going to hit Archfiend. I don't think there's any real reason to hit Launcher at this stage now. Some people were also suggesting that with Archfiend being put to 1, you can put Barrier back to 3. I don't really agree with that. I think both of these at 1 is just it gets the deck out of the way, and it's sort of like out with the old, in with the new sort of thing, which I thought they were going to do a lot more in hitting a whole bunch of the decks that have had reprints. They've had a bunch of time in the game. Now it's time for them to bugger off, and so that they can focus on the 3 primary decks of the format. Raigeki. Okay, so my initial thought here was, my initial idea was, I sort of maybe thought, I was definitely wondering if the people who made the ban list were high, but considering how easily your opponent will go plus if you use this against them, provided, like, dependent on the deck, like, you drop this against either Shadows or Burning Abyss, they're probably going to go plus off this more than you will, which is a bit unfair considering you're using the freaking card. At the same time, though, it is sacky, because I did get sacked by Raigeki in Lightsworns, because I pretty much had massive board clearance, massive board presence, and then it's just sort of like, okay, Raigeki, and then I ended up friggin' losing to a Falgran, which sucked, but I wouldn't really say it's healthy for the game. I mean, it's obvious because it's been banned for freaking 10 goddamn years, and I'll let that sink in as well. 10 years this thing's been banned, and now it's finally coming back. The question is, how many people are actually going to say, finally, I wanted Raigeki for ages? Not a whole lot of people. It's not really a particularly healthy card, but we've got it. We might as well abuse the shit out of it. So, there you go. You can have a Thunderbolt. Why not? Soul Charge to 1, well, people say that people wanted this thing to get banned. It didn't deserve to get banned. I think 1's perfectly fine for it. Like, if you are going to ban it, at least give us some sort of replacement, like, in the future. I would say Monster Reborn, but to be perfectly honest, I actually think Prem is slightly more balanced, because at least that requires a cost, and if your opponent chains MST, it's useless. So, but, you know, just pointless rambling about other banned cards aside, I don't really see any complaints about Soul Charge. I think it's fine to be put to 1. It's pretty fine. Super Poly, this is one of 2 cards that I am salty about. I would be a lot more salty if I was still running Heroes, and to an extent I kind of am. I would like to run, at least try to win a local with Heroes eventually, hopefully before the year's out, but I can't hide my disappointment at Super Poly getting banned. It does kind of suck to see it not get banned, but get put to 1, because it is, while you absolutely hate seeing that, like, played against you, it is still just one of the most funniest fuck feelings, knowing that you're going to steal an opponent's monster and they cannot do anything about it. I mean, aside from maybe just torrentialing the board as soon as the monster comes out, but I reckon I probably could manage with 1. I think that's just something that we have to see for the future. Although, mind you, we still need to have Stratos back. Although with the amount of search cards that Heroes have, they might not even need to worry about Stratos at this point in time. But it would be nice to have him back, because there's no real reason to have him banned now. So with that out of the way, Gale the Whirlwind, the first of the semi-limited cards to discuss. This I called, and I pretty much just about knew that this was going to happen, because I went and got a couple more gold rare ones, just in the case that they may have even bumped Gale up to 3. But there was the point was the basis on this was the simple fact that I did not think that Gale was going to stay at 1 too much longer, so I bought them, and it was a solid investment because I'm going to be able to run 2 of them in the deck, and it gives Blackwings a nice little boost. Again, it is a means to promote synchros, and a whole bunch of the Blackwing cards are even getting ultra rare reprints in the 5D's Legendary Collection, so I think this is pretty much just a well played move here. Gauze. Nobody plays Gauze nowadays. I mean, a handful of people do, but it's not incredibly super popular, and I don't really know why. But I suppose, if anything, now that people have two, will that encourage the use of it? Well, considering, provided of course you don't like being OTK'd, you'll absolutely love this. I think a handful of people will give it a crack now at two, like if they can fit it in. Light Thorns is a good option because, especially particularly in the mirror match, you can just easily get sacked, and it's nice to have a gauze up your sleeve. And not to mention as well the sanctity of milling one gauze and knowing you've got another one in the deck ready to roll if you've can top deck into it with a recharge or just for draw phase or something like that. So I think overall this is a pretty good move. Ceasefire. This is not a good move because it gives Chainburn a bit of a boost. I'm not too sure if Chainburn even really runs this, but the point still remains. It is a burn card. It's kind of annoying. The only positive out of this is now I can side 2 copies of it in my Frog deck, because apparently Ceasefire is kind of decent in Frogs. I don't know why, but I think that's the only real positive. Aside from that, I'm a bit kind of disappointed to see this thing get put to 2. I think it was perfectly fine at 1. So that's pretty much it. Transmigration Prophecy has been limited for the longest time. I didn't really see any reason to limit it in the first place. Mind you, I wasn't really playing competitively at a time when Transmigration was even put to 1 in the first place. So I'm not too sure why it got put to 1, but at 2, it actually gives people a good reason to side it, and like maybe screw over the opponent's plays with, like for example, if they've got Dragon Rulers, you know, they can just be like, okay, use the Dragon Ruler from grave, chain Transmigration Prophecy, send it back to the deck, and just kind of screw them over like that, which I think can actually be kind of funny, and so I can definitely see some play in this, and I think that's about it, all I can say for Transmigration Prophecy. I don't really have much of an opinion on it. So, onto the unlimited cards. Coach Soldier Wolfbark, I don't think anybody saw this one coming. In theory, though, considering Fire Fists kind of just went right off the rails when this thing got put to 1, I feel as if maybe not so much the promotion of Fire Fists once again, but maybe the fact that you can get synchro plays going off. Like, there are some Fire Fists, they're like 3.5 axes can abuse the shit out of synchros. I don't know, I might be looking into this far too much, but I'm not going to complain. I got a play set of these the minute I found out about this list, so it's kind of awesome. I did the same thing with Raigeki. I got a play set of those, so I got them for relatively cheap, and I'm going to be quite content with this. So overall, I'm not at all going to complain about Wolfbark. The big question is, how many Wolfbarks would one play in Fat now? That's one question I've got to pose to the community here. Is, if you're running Fat, how many Wolfbarks would you play? Theoretically, I would probably go with 2, but I don't know. I think 2 actually sounds pretty damn good to me. So, I mean, you can drop your opinion wherever. So, go ahead. I'd love to hear them. So, anyways, Magician of Faith followed in the footsteps of Tsukiyomi and was unbanned, then put to 2, then put to 3. I don't think anybody's going to complain about this. I don't think anybody's going to really be. I don't think anybody's even really care except maybe Richie. I don't know. But Magician of Faith at 3 is actually kind of funny, especially since you can now recycle Raigeki with this thing. So you can do some silly things with Magician of Faith. I mean, apparently, you know, you could probably. I mean, now Apprentice Magician engine is like completely maxed out, so you can do some silly shit with that. But at least I know I'm putting a third one of these in my Exodia deck. So, yeah. Formula Synchron to 3. Well, it pretty much did the similar thing, except it didn't get banned. It just got put to 2, and then they didn't really care too much about it. And they're just like, okay, fine, put it to 3. It's fine. I don't think there's really a reason to put it to 1 in the first place, but whatever. I don't really care. I'll only probably ever run maybe 2 copies max in any deck, so whatever. And Rota to 3. Wow. This one is going to make some decks so silly. Some people are going on a pointless tangent about, oh hey, 6 Samurais tier 0 because they've got 6 search cards. Noble Knights are tier 0. The difference between Noble Knights and 6 Samurais is Noble Knights are actually still consistent. I mean, 6 Samurais, I mean, you get Shen, you're in a pretty awesome position, but Noble Knights are still more consistent. They still see a lot of play, they're still actually relatively good. It's not really that difficult to get around them, though, mind you. I mean, provided you got the MST for their non-targeting one, which I think is Excalibur. I can't remember for the life of me which one that was, but whatever. But yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to complain about it because, like I said, with this 3 equal at 3, duality at 3, you know, it makes you think maybe Stratos is not entirely necessary. I think the only bonus that you're going to get out of Stratos is the ability to nuke back row, which is quite awesome, and that's probably the big reason why I would want it back at this point in time now, since I think heroes have more than enough cards to go dig it through their deck and have enough of a reason for dying to Thunder King, which would be such a pity. But I don't know. I think this is something that we're going to have to sit back and wait and see. The big question is, would people actually be crazy enough to run triple of this in something like Constellar, since you've only got like 3 targets unless you run Thrashers? I mean, if you don't want to run Thrashers, then you don't have to. I've been taking one in my build just for like multi-purpose, basically, because I'm also running Bajinte Tsukiyomi. I'll probably go on a tangent about that when I build the Constellars again, which I probably should. I'm probably going to end up doing so, at least for the new list and whatnot. So, with that out of the way, we're done with the Banlist discussion. Yay! So that was me dumping my head, I guess, full of thoughts into this one really pointless recording video and just saying, hey, this is a thing. Overall, like, final thought on the ban list, it's not bad. I thought they would have done more with it. I thought they would have maybe done a whole sort of like cleanup job, get rid of some of the old decks to promote the 3 current decks that are new. There's a whole bunch of shit that they didn't hit that many people thought they would have. I mean, artifacts were probably the biggest thing on there. Vanities, you know, people are still calling for rulers to get banned. I mean, I think that people are going to call for rulers to be banned until the game dies. So, I think that's pretty much a bit of a thing. You know, you're not going to please everyone with ban lists like this, but I think that they probably could have. I feel like they could have done maybe a little bit more. I'm still debating on whether or not they were high in actually when they said, okay, let's bring Regeki back. I think, though, it's not going to have as huge an effect on the game. So, this is gonna do a bit of a shape up of the format, but not. I don't think it's going to really be format defining, because I still think the top 3 decks are going to be big. I think the only deck that actually copped a genuine hit here was Shadows, and even then, does every single Shadow deck absolutely run Super Poly? Because I'm not 100% sure on that. Super Poly's a busted card, so you can run Shadows if you want to, but I don't know. There's a whole bunch of uncertainty. I think just wait until about a month into the ban list and what month into the format and see how the meta shapes up at that point. See what we see come stuff like YCS London in particular. Dallas will probably be the first major sort of indicator of what the meta is going to be like. But I think with more time, the meta will. I think the meta will be better shaped with more time. So probably one would do well, I would say, to keep their eyes on YCS London to see what kind of stuff you'll see there. So with that out of the way, this is the ban list thought dump here. This might actually well be my last. I'm not too sure if I'm going to be doing the next one, if I am going to drop the game at the end of the year, because it wouldn't really matter to me what the next ban list will do, but did this because I'm playing this format, so yeah, that's about it. Enough of my rambling. I'm gonna go and repair my throat after having ripped it to shreds throughout the course of this friggin' video. So, yeah, see you later.